You are listening to The Real Men Feel Show with your hosts Andy Grant and Appio Hunter. Real Men Feel encourages men to allow and express all of their emotions. Despite what you may have been taught, all emotions do serve you. Real Men Feel is committed to engaging in discussions that most men aren't having, but you don't need to be a man to join us. The Real Men Feel Show is produced live each Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for your growth and enjoyment. Listen to us on podcast platforms including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. You can also watch the show on YouTube by visiting realmenfeel.org/YouTube. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe on iTunes by visiting realmenfeel.org/iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at realmenfeelorg and on Facebook, facebook.com/realmenfeelshow. All links mentioned in each episode are in the show notes found on the blog at realmenfeel.org. Show your support for Real Men Feel by shopping at realmenfeel.org/swag, by visiting digitaltipjar.com/realmenfeel, or even text us a tip. You can show some love for Real Men Feel by texting Real Men Feel, that's all one word, to 504-226-5306. You'll receive a link back to complete your tip and choose the amount. This is a weekly program, and your reviews, comments, feedback, and participation are welcome during the live show and anytime in our Facebook group, on Twitter, or at realmenfeel.org. Now, let's dive into this week's show.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Real Men Feel. This is Andy Grant, and tonight, the real men are feeling rather fatherly. So that'll be explained a little more as we get going. But in the meantime, before we officially launch, I want to welcome in my friend and co-host, Appio Hunter.
Hey, Andy. I am so excited about tonight. It's it just has a great vibe. We've been having lots of fun in the pre-show chat, and I think it's going to be so awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So our guest tonight is someone I met through both of our work on the Good Men Project. Hogan Hilling is a nationally recognized author of 12 published books. He's the creator of a Dadly book series, and that's how I've come to know him. And he has a couple of campaigns: We Love Dads, We Love Moms. He's the owner of Dad Marketing, a consulting firm helping companies market directly to dads. And with all that work around dads, you might think, well, he must be a father, right? And yes, he is the father of 3 children. And he's even appeared on Oprah. You're our first Oprah-approved guest.
Oh, well, thank you.
And we're excited to have you, for sure.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's also a great time to be a dad, and really appreciate you guys having me on the show and just kind of share some of the things I've gone through as a dad in the last 3 decades.
Yeah. So first of all, what got you from being a dad into working with dads, and you're part of some stay-at-home dad organizations and such, yes?
Oh, yeah. What happened was I just kind of fell in to this whole dad or parent advocate role and writing books by accident. I was a working dad at the time when I got married, had our firstborn, Grant, in 1988. And then our second child was born in 1999, about 17 months later. And he was born with a rare genetic disorder. And at the time that was a time when there was a growing trend to be a 2-income family. And it was obvious that my wife was making a little bit more than I was, and plus she had health benefits. And then we realized that my son with special needs, Wesley, needed more care. And out of the blue, I just said, why don't I just stay home? And I was initially going to stay home for 3 or 4 years, but I fell in love with the role. But as I was doing the primary caregiver role, I was dealing with a lot of issues in terms of because real men at that time weren't supposed to eat quiche. Our masculinity was being questioned. It still is today. But long story short is I really fell in love with being home, and my wife decided to have a 3rd child, and then I made that commitment to stay home for 20 years. I actually was a primary caregiver for 20 years. As far as me going into the dad working with dads, I was hired by a hospital in Irvine, California, to start Expecting Dads classes. And that program's now called Boot Camp for New Dads. I worked with the founder, Jeff, and his name, Greg Bishop, and I was an instructor there. And I really loved just working in open discussion groups. It was not lecture based, and I just started going into the mainstream, and that's how I started getting into other dad programs. And then how I got into the At Home Dad network was it was kind of a funny story. It's the National At Home. It's called the National At Home Dad Network. They have I think thousands of members. They meet every year at the at a convention. And I'm driving in the car, and I coined the phrase "coming out of the pantry," because so many guys were really struggling with that identity, right? And they would admit that they were the primary caregiver. And so what happened was, I was in my car and I heard a radio station. I was listening to talk radio, and there was an at-home dad that they were interviewing, and he was saying, "Oh, we have this convention in Chicago." So I called the radio station. I got the guy's number, and we talked, and we developed this bond, and we both started developing this confidence. We started meeting other at-home dads, and then we wound up meeting in Chicago. And I attended the annual convention. Out of the 20, I think, 3 years it's been going on, it's the second largest consecutive dads event in the country. And out of the 23, I think I've been to 15 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I want to, what sort of things, what did you teach at the Boot Camp for New Dads?
Well, I think the biggest thing was just giving them the confidence to know that, I said, you guys know more than you think you know. But as anything else, you're kind of thrown into this whole parenting role, and and there's so much attention focused on the mom. And, that was kind of an unusual thing to have dads to show up. But basically what we're doing is, with dads, and men in general, I think if they know what's coming up, they know how to deal with it. So we were just giving them an educational, when you become a dad, these things kind of happen. But what I really liked about the format was it was really open discussion. I acted more like a facilitator. So there would be like an introduction in the beginning. Then we would say, okay, what are some issues you were dealing with? All the way go out of room. And what the guys one of the biggest things that they realize, that they're not alone, that the issues that they have, other dads also have. So what we did is we helped them engage in conversation with each other. Another fascinating thing about this is we would bring in veteran dads with babies. So we would have like anywhere from 15 to 20 dads, but of the 20 to 15 dads, 4 or 5 of them would bring their babies in. And so they served as mentors. So we just directed the conversation, and we used the Expectant Dads as a resource of information. So it wasn't necessarily me telling the guys how to be a better dad. It was just getting guys to get it. And that's how that grew, and that's what you're seeing now a lot more of. And I always say that the best resource a dad has is other dads.
Yeah. So it's like a men's group, a men's circle, but some of the men had babies.
Yeah, and we actually did some exercises. Like, one of the things we do is we'd have the dad get in the middle of this. We call it the diaper changing circle. And so it was hilarious and educational at the same time, because, but I mean, the most powerful thing about this was that, the stigma we get as men, as dads, is that, we're inept, we can't diaper. And the magic of this is that you invite a guy to get in the middle, and he was more than willing to change a diaper in front of 20 guys. Imagine that. And think about it, in the 1990s, that was a big deal, right? So what we would do is we would ask one of the dads, rookie dads, we call them, and say, hey, you know what, you want to participate in this? So you actually see a dad showing another dad change a diaper. And you can imagine some of the conversation that's going on there. They're trying to be serious at the same time, but you just got to laugh.
So true.
Or like, for example, if a guy was talking, instead of me answering the question, I would turn to a veteran dad and say, "Oh, David, what are your thoughts about this?"
Do you find that still today men are hesitant to come out of the pantry?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So has it changed at all?
It's changed a little bit, in the sense that you're seeing more dads wanting to do it. And then we also see at-home dads that are staying at-home dads for a longer period of time. Most of the guys that I was around back then, went back into the workforce after 3 or 4 years. They were able to juggle work and being being a dad. And now you're seeing these guys staying home longer, like some of them anywhere from 8 to 10 years. So the average at-home dad is at home for 8 or 10 more years. Where they struggle with is the comfort level they have about themselves and how people still reacting to them. Why they still get the same questions. Why are you staying home? Why aren't you working? This is a mom's job. You should be at the office, et cetera, et cetera. So that hasn't changed in terms of like fully embracing the concept.
Is there at all a consistent way that most men answer that question, like why they're staying home?
Not really, because it's hard for them just to engage in the conversation because there's so many assumptions. The biggest assumption that people make about the guy staying home is that he either got fired from his job, that it was done, that he was laid off, how do I explain this? It was more kind of that was kind of a last resort thing, like it wasn't a choice.
Not a choice.
But if you talk to the at-home dad community, everybody, what's interesting, they made a conscious choice. They looked at the financial part of it. They looked at the personality of their wife, their personality. Like my ex-wife, she didn't want to stay at home. She was a personality. She was career oriented. I'm kind of a go with the flow kind of guy, fun loving guy. And so it was a perfect fit for me, and I loved it. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. It's not just this thing like, oh yeah, we'll just do it because we're forced to do it. So that's one of the things I tell the dads is that don't. It's sad that you have to defend yourself, but you can turn around and say, for example, I love being at home, or my wife and I had this discussion and explained to them the whole process that you went through. Say it with confidence, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm not a dad, but I do have 2 friends that have been stay-at-home dads. And I was like, that's awesome. Like most guys that I know like look up to that and like, somebody again, we were talking earlier before the show how so many people hate their jobs. Yeah. So I would think more people looked up to the stay-at-home dad these days, but I guess not.
Well, I don't think they look up to them. In fact, we've got so much attention that we don't really want it anymore because because they think, oh wow, that guy's staying home. Oh wow, it's kind of a big deal sometimes. Like, well, wow, you're staying home, and this is we're just like every other guy. It's just that we decided that we didn't want to also work. And not that staying home isn't work. It's just that, it's something we want to try. And what we're finding out is a lot of guys fell in love with it. And I think it's just a comfort level that you have to create for yourself. If you're happy doing this, because I went through this, I go like, I'm loving this, but everybody around me is telling me this is wrong for me. Well, come on. And so it got to the point where I just got tired of defending myself, and I just did what I did. I mean, stay-at-home moms don't have to defend themselves. Nobody ever questions them. So it's a tough position to be in, especially when you're a guy and people are like questioning your masculinity. I got to tell you guys, most people don't know this, but I'm 6'6", okay? Wow. I smoke cigars, I drink beer, I do manly stuff, I go fishing, I play poker. I have not lost any bit of my masculinity, okay? let's get this straight from this point on, right?
Right. If anything, you've been able to fully embrace it and feel 100% comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly.
I love that.
Well, let me say this too. Like with working dads, I had a working dad come up to me and he said to me, "Wow, I really admire what you do, et cetera, et cetera." And I says, "Slow down. I said, look, I admire what you guys do because you guys have to balance work. And then you come home and like turn that switch off, and that's not easy to do." And I'm going like, I only got to focus one thing, okay? Keep my kids alive for the day.
Right, one day at a time, literally.
Yeah, and so I felt grateful that I had the opportunity to take this role on, and I fell in love with it. So I'm lucky.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious how often, at least in the equation of that decision-making process of, dads consciously choosing to stay home and be a stay-at-home dad, how often do you hear of them, of the decision part of the decision-making process being they want to support their wives in their careers?
Oh, thanks for bringing that out. I think a lot of people forget about that,
Hmm.
especially with the whole gender equality movement in the
Right.
workplace, and that is that um, they see guys staying at home more as confused. Why are you doing this? We
Hmm.
should be staying home, and it really how do I say it really takes away from the other important thing that these at-home dads are doing, because women want to be succeed in the workforce, and you got a
Right.
guy here that's giving up his career so that she could pursue her career, and at the
Hmm.
same time he's getting flack from people about giving up to support his wife's career. I don't get that. And so at-home dads are part of the reason why corporate moms in corporate America are doing so well now.
Hmm. I love
But
that.
it's been overshadowed. That's the word I was looking at. That whole thing
Right.
has been overshadowed.
Hmm. Hmm. That's really interesting. And as far as what do you think that the stay at home dad movement has played as far as a role is concerned, is um, bringing equity to the workplace, not just as far as women's careers are concerned, but
Hmm.
also the parental leave. So, for instance, there's always maternity leave. In the company where I work, they have a very, very generous paternity leave also. In fact,
Hmm.
our ops manager, our office is currently off on paternity leave. I mean, almost all the new dads in my
Hmm.
office have taken full advantage of that
Oh,
paternity
yeah. Well, I think they've been a wake-up call, not just to fatherhood, but just to
leave. Uh-huh.
parenting in general. Because
Mm.
the stigma is still there that moms are better caregivers than dads, and
Hmm.
it's unfortunate because dads are just as capable. They just do it
Hmm.
differently.
Yeah.
And I think that the at-home dads, as much as I mentioned earlier that they had trouble coming out of the pantry and uncomfortable about their role, I think what they've done for working dads is
Hmm.
made them feel comfortable about pushing the stroller, made them feel comfortable about going to the playground, made them feel comfortable about joining support groups. Because when they see a guy pushing a stroller, they used to make fun of the guy, right? And now
Right.
because they see more, and like anything else with guys, when you see more guys doing something else, your comfort level begins to rise a little bit. So I think that's where stay-at-home dads played a huge role is with the working dads, is that, hey, I can do more when I get home. I can be more involved. Oh wow,
Hmm.
Hogan looks like he's having fun. I'm going to try this. He seems to, he's 6'6". He's a macho looking kind of guy. He feels comfortable with it. Why can't I feel comfortable with it?
Yeah. Once that permission is given, boy, it's amazing where we go with that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with stay-at-home dads, kind of like bursting that stigma and that box of what a man is wide open, you're even helping people open it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
really cool. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of at-home dads don't realize that,
Hmm.
because for the first 2 or 3 years, they're so caught up in this transition of defining their masculinity, because we were told before that men aren't supposed to be doing this. And I'm saying, like, why not?
Ah,
If you insult me or give me a hard time, I'm still going to try to kick your ass. That's just going to change.
oh, that's great.
But let me just example, like, for example, the Mr. Mom thing.
Mhm.
Okay, it's still kind of a label today, and so what we're
Mhm.
trying to tell guys is, like, when somebody comes up with the label, like the Mr. Mom label, don't let them emasculate you. What I see right now is a lot of men are getting emasculated, feeling like they have to show their feminine side. Okay, I ain't got one. And it's interesting because we never ask women to show their masculine side.
Right.
And so I think when you start, even like working dads have told me, yeah, if I'm doing the groceries to my kid, it's still like Mr. Mom, and guys have to speak up and say, hey, listen, I really understand why you're saying that, but it's really offensive because we're not a replacement for mom.
Right.
We're dads, and that's how you got to get over that whole uncomfortable level that people are giving you. Because once you start standing up for that identity,
Mhm.
people start to respect you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how you gain the respect.
And I think that's really true of just about any conversation. Once you stand up and stand firm, people will oftentimes pull back and then show you respect because you respected yourself enough.
And I actually learned this not only from the dads that I had the confidence level. I saw these guys who were so comfortable in their skin, and I was struggling a little bit. And then another person that really made a huge impact on my life was a mom in the group that I was with. And at that time, I was lucky because I had a group of moms that really embraced me. And Colleen came up to me and she said, Hogan, look, we know you love your kids, but it seems like you're not enjoying this. It seems like you got this weight on your shoulders about having to prove yourself, about dealing with people and questioning your masculinity. And said, we know you can do this job. Just have fun with it and feel comfortable around us. And she was exactly right. I just parent and make this commitment, just like moms are doing it, and everything will be okay. And from that point on, she was exactly right. I started gaining more respect from people because I wasn't doing this with a chip on my shoulder. I was doing it because I loved it and I was standing up for it.
And as you got more comfortable in your skin and in your role, others got more comfortable with it as well.
I would say the women got more comfortable with it more than the men. And an example of that is that, all of a sudden the moms are like inviting me to like luncheon dates at their house, and I'm bringing food there. And then they invited me to a white elephant party they were doing. I mean, before I was single, there weren't women inviting me to do all this stuff. Now I'm a dad and I'm comfortable in my own skin with this. And next thing I know, women are comfortable with me. And, I'm sharing the story and I know I'm laughing about it a little, but, this is an example that, men and women, whether you're a man and a woman or a father and a mom, we can have a platonic relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? Some of the moms were my best friends when I was doing this. It was great. I had a great support system. I helped them get through this as stay-at-home moms, and they helped me get through some of the issues as stay-at-home dads.
Yeah. So you're just stay-at-home parents.
Yeah.
Period.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
So part of the classes that you were doing, how many of them were like there's a stepdad's dynamic? I asked because I never had my own kids, but I had stepkids who actually came into my life, and it was an interesting dynamic for me because obviously I wasn't there during the barfing and diaper changing phase and all that stuff, but they nevertheless entered my life at a time when they're still very much in their early teens. My oldest, I refer to them as my sons, really. Mm-hmm. So my older son entered my life when he was 14, and the younger one when he was 11. And do you encounter that dynamic much? And what are some of the challenges that stepdads?
I personally don't, but our culture does. Right. And when guys came into the groups, I've done these open discussion groups with expectant dads, and I've also done them with older dads, and I've done them with a very variety of family dynamics. And the one thing I emphasize is that stop putting an adjective in front of the word dad, okay? Mm-hmm. Because whether you're a stay-at-home dad, gay dad, working dad, et cetera, I can guarantee you this. Whenever my kids introduce me to other kids, they just turn around and say, this is my dad. We can learn so much from kids. Because once you start putting that label there, you get treated differently.
Yeah.
So what I would say to the group is say, you're all just dads here. And let's just focus on fatherhood issues or parenting issues, because the reality is that these issues don't discriminate. They don't care what kind of dad you are. So what I try to do is get dads just take that label away and say, look, I know you don't have that biological connection, but if you bring up the word stepdad, who's creating the barrier?
Right. Yeah.
You are.
Exactly. That's why I removed it myself when I'm referring to my sons, because there is no barrier there. I've been a very
let me ask you, how do they treat you? Like a stepdad or like a dad?
Like a dad. They
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
so-
I can tell you, even moms struggle with that. And I'm glad you brought this up, because what we're seeing in the parenting community is it's well intended. You see stepdad groups, divorced dad groups, add-on dad groups, working dad groups, dads of children with special needs, et cetera, et cetera. We're segregating ourselves, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
You know, because we're the ones putting the labels, and the kids are probably looking and going like, what are our moms and dads doing here? You know, they're just dads and moms and parents to us, and everybody's putting labels. And now, you know, the kids are being dragged around going to like these little groups when there's so much more to learn by expanding yourself. So let me quickly share a couple stories. And you know, it's not a criticism to both of these groups, but I've been a working dad, add-on dad. I've been a dad of special needs. You know, people come to me, "Oh, you're a dad of special needs." I go, "Will you stop it already?"
Stop
then I had to go through a divorce, and you know, now some people are like labeling me with the I got the scarlet letter D on my chest, but it's not for dad, it's for divorce. Oh my God, stop it, you know. And then so anyway, in 1992, I started a father's network for fathers of children with special needs. And people were telling me, you know, the dads are going to show up. And already I'm going like, you haven't invited us yet, and you already telling we're not showing up, you know? So I invited it. So I really had 20, 25 dads showing up every month. This is a very sensitive population, right? And this was at a time where the father movement hadn't even started. And about a year went by. I had a friend of mine do a 501c3. You know, the group was growing, and I sat down with at the time I was the president, and I had a board of directors, and I said, you know, we have something magical here. And I said, we not only have dads with children with disabilities, but we have, quote, normal kids, you know. But even sometimes those, quote, normal kids have disabilities that we want to talk about right now. But anyway, so I turned to him. I said, listen, I said, why don't we open up the group to all dads? And they said no. I was shocked. And I said, why? And they said, well, they won't understand what we're going through. And I said to them, well, how are they ever going to understand unless we embrace them? So basically, you know, they were asking the mainstream to embrace their kids, but they weren't willing to embrace mainstream. And so I said to them, I said, well, you have two choices here. He said, either we invite the other dads to come in here, or I'm going to resign. And I resigned. And then a couple of years later, I was with the National Add-on Dad Network, and I helped start the group and the convention and all that stuff. And I proposed the same thing, and they said the same thing. And I'm thinking, like, you know, this is craziness. Why are we doing this? And we're still doing it now, and it drives me nuts. You know, you can still have your convention every year, but why don't you invite other dads in that particular town to come in? And, you know, you can have such a positive impact even on other dads that come in that aren't in the primary caregiver role. And also, you're going to gain support for your organization. You're going to, you know, have financial support because more people are going to come, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, that's kind of, I think, the reason I'm bringing it up, I think that's where we're stuck right now. If we can get over this hump in the next 2 or 3 years, we can do amazing things.
Yeah. And this goes with every organization, not just.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, that is kind of amazing, especially like any father might not know when he'll become a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
So to exclude him from learning about that until he's
exactly. Oh wait, you can't join this group until you do this. You know, like you plan to be a divorced dad, or you plan to be a stepdad. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know?
No, none of that was ever in my plans at all. It happened, man. It was the most.
But anyway, even if you were a stepdad and you were with, say, an add-on dad or a working dad, there are things that you could learn from that guy.
Yes.
Yeah. And vice versa. There might be something that they might learn from you. Just because you're a stepdad doesn't mean you don't know what the hell you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of credit. Appio, even if you're Brazilian, I'm still gonna give you a little credit for being a great dad. I don't even know you.
That's fair enough. You know,
your kids are alive, right? They're breathing.
they are alive. They've actually produced kids of their own. Being a
Yeah.
grandparent has been amazing. And I think that in some ways, taking away that step label, it was very fun for me because in a way I felt like I was supportive of their biological parents, but more so, I sometimes ended up being like the neutral third party when they were having disputes with the parents who brought them into the world. And it was fun because it was a way for me to be able to really create a really amazing bond and have some
Did
incredible
the biological dad embrace you and the?
Oh, very much. And he's my husband.
Well, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely, yes. As has the biological mom.
Okay.
She and I are very close friends. Very close friends.
Well, I mean, even in the mainstream, I mean, the question I'm getting at is because you did not feel like a stepdad, it made him feel, I think, more comfortable. But where I think the struggle is sometimes is that when a stepdad comes into the picture, and sometimes the biological dad can kind of get offended because he thinks it's like a sign of disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
But it really, it really isn't. It's just we're trying to make this environment normal for the kids. Like set your ego aside for a second and realize, look, everybody knows you're the biological dad already. You don't have to carry a freaking neon sign above your head and say, I'm the biological dad. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And the way that we actually
and I don't think you want to carry a sign like
no,
it's
so true.
Or wait, step gay dad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like you end up accumulating a lot of adjectives along the way. It's very, very true. And the way that I actually approached it and handle it was like, when it comes to major life decisions, I made it very clear. It's like, I am your father's companion. But I am not your mom's replacement. I am nobody's replacement. I am just somebody who is here. And that's the attitude I took. I never really explicitly said that, but that was the attitude that I had in my approach to the whole dynamic.
Well, for me, your attitude is actually more powerful than actually telling somebody.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And
in my
opinion, absolutely had an impact on our relationship. Yes, I completely agree.
But you're not allowed to start a Brazilian dads group, right?
We don't need another label out there.
Yeah, so with it, Hogan, is there any sort of national dads group? Is there a kind of label-free just group for dads to mingle and get
unfortunately, it's not. And again, this is not a criticism. I think everything's well intended. I think, as you can see, I'm a like out of the box thinking kind of guy. And I'm looking at the bigger picture, like the national.
It is a criticism. It is a criticism. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I can criticize on the show. Oh, wow, honey, give me a beer. Open up the champagne bottle.
Pop a cigar, also.
Okay. No, I'm glad you're addressing this because I hope that the dads that are watching will hopefully inspire them to understand. And I'm gonna address your issue. But one of the points that I want to make here is that fathers always calling about, we want a father-friendly environment in the parenting community. Nobody disputes mom bias, okay? And the fathers feel like it's the mother's responsibility and for them to feel comfortable and create a father-friendly environment in the parenting community. Wrong. Because moms are moms. They don't know how to create a father-friendly environment, okay? Secondly, we're not even friendly to our own gender. Mike Murphy was a baseball player on opening day, was in the hospital for the birth of his baby, and his fellow baseball announcers are criticizing him for not showing up on opening day to go play baseball. That's not being friendly. You should have said, "Oh wow, what a great thing Murphy did, that he puts his family first," because the ownership had no problem with it. They didn't fire him. He played the next day, right? So there's a lot more that we can do. And like, for example, there's a National Father Initiative, but their sole purpose and their target audience is low-income dads, if you really look at their program. Okay? National Center for Fatherhood is very religious-based. The problem I have with the National Father Initiative is that, they're thinking, well, if we help these guys earn better money, they'll be better dads. excuse me? You know, there are people that makes millions of dollars that aren't doing what they need to do to be dads and are also struggling and want to learn how to be better dads. So to base a dad's ability on how much money he makes is craziness.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are low income dads that are fantastic fathers.
Oh yeah, oh man, I'm telling you, yeah. And so then you have the National Adam Dad Network, then you have the Divorce Dad Network. You know, there's kind of a national there's some kind of national things going on there, but there is no fatherhood organization that brings all the adjective labeled dads together. So, like I told you before, the Adam Dad Experience, you know, they don't invite other dads. Divorce dads are the same thing. You know, there's most of them are so bent up in their anger that they don't even think about going to a dad's group to learn how to be a better dad. So they go to a dad support group and it becomes a venting session. You know what I mean? And so, no, there's no, and it's the same thing with the moms. The moms are doing it too. So this is not gender specific. They just don't gather on a national level, and even on a local level, they don't. What I found out in some of the work I did in researching for my books as well is that there are dads groups in LA County. They don't even work with each other. They don't collaborate. They're all doing like their individual things. And it's even with the dad bloggers and the dads groups that we have, you can see how the segregation forms and you stick in the group. So what we find out in some of the researches that we did on our own is that there's an immediate connection to a group. It's true with both moms and dads. They get the emotional connection they're looking for, but after they're in the group for a while, two things happen. Either they're not getting what they need and they leave, or they're getting in there, but they're not clicking with the rest of the group, which I hate, because you know, this is supposed to be not gentleman criticism. We're supposed to be sharing the love and embracing people, and you're finding out people are leaving for a reason. Well, find out why they're leaving and bring them back in. And we have other people who are taking ownership of this and setting rules and guidelines and saying, well, even see it on in internet groups. If somebody, for some reason, says something political, you know, people start jumping on them. And I'm thinking to myself, this is supposed to be a forum, a safe forum, no judgment, no criticism, no bias. And all of a sudden you get guys bringing in other topics and then they get away from it and it causes a lot of conflict and guys start to leave. Well, if you really look at the small groups and you look at the numbers, they're never growing because of that.
Interesting.
So are people kind of hopping from whatever adjective they feel in the moment?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah, because like Rick Appio said, you know, you don't never know when you're going to be a stepdad or a divorced dad. You could be a married dad, and all of a sudden you wind up getting divorced, and now you become a stepdad. So now there's this kind of thing. Okay, well, I'm a stepdad, so I got to the initial reaction is to kind of go, okay, now I'll just start going with stepdads.
Right, I have to shift my whole tribe.
Yeah. But I'm glad you guys brought this up because we really need to get this message out. Because what's interesting is that kids don't discriminate. No. They don't really care. And even in my groups, when I do my groups, I've had dads come in and of every income, every race, every religion. I've had gay dads in my groups, and one of the things I do is I make it so guys look at each other as dads. You know, not at your profession. And I have certain rules. One is you don't talk about religion, parenting philosophies, medical issues, legal issues, and stuff. And it's interesting, if you give these guys these 5 rules, they'll follow them. They even police themselves. I had one guy start going off, and I had one of the other guys goes, "I'm sorry, Joe, but we're not going to talk about this because," and then he referred to the rules. And even the language barrier was interesting. I had a group one time where two Hispanic guys came in, and while the conversation was going, you could overhear one of the Hispanic guys interpreting to the other Spanish guy. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, the whole group on its own started talking slower because the guy was interpreting for him. You see, if somebody would have come up and said, "Oh, he has a language barrier," then it would have been uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just let the guys work itself out, it's so powerful, because now they're showing a sense of compassion that some women apparently think we don't have. because we invited it into that group.
Mm.
We invited compassion. We're not forcing guys to be compassionate with each other.
It's like, as I'm listening to you, the gears in my head are like working overtime. I'm thinking, this conversation just, if anything, it's making that case for opening up the groups to each other, so that way men don't only have to jump from group to group to group, depending on whatever adjective is being tacked on at the time, but that compassion, that understanding, everything can all be there, and if anything, amplified because of the diversity of experiences.
Oh, exactly. But I think that dads are still kind of going to this comfort level of emotional support, and they, maybe they need that little push or shove that the three of us can give them now, right?
Right.
But let me tell you this, because it's a tough exercise, because I know I'm sharing some information here, but I had the benefit of going through this in the 1990s, because when I did the Expectant Dads classes, guys used to walk in and I used to judge just by the way their body language came in. I would say, because back then guys would walk in like they didn't want to be there, and so I'm sitting there and going like, I want this to be fun, but the guy's giving me some bad vibes, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy's. I started like just doing this, making judgment calls. This guy's walking in on whether they're going to be good in this class or not, and I had to look at myself in the mirror. I said, I need to stop doing that. And once I started doing that, the groups got much more and more powerful, because I gave that guy a chance for him to get to know him better. But if I put that judgment barrier in there, how do I give him an opportunity to get to know him better, and vice versa, him to get to know me better? Once I took that judgment wall out and guys came in, it was amazing. And that's, I think, the problem that we have here is that, oh, well, he's a divorced dad. I'm going to use divorced dads as an example, because that's the extreme. Right. Oh, you must have did something horrible, like to screw up your family. I'm not, I don't want to be connected with you, or I don't want to be near you because I heard divorce is disease, that it's contagious. And it's not. Okay, come on, guys. But it's just so powerful that we need to just. And another example too is like gay dads. Okay, if I tell a gay dad, come in here, don't tell them they're gay. They're gonna figure it out. Okay, but if you come in and say I'm a gay dad, they're gonna react to you differently.
Right.
Because you're telling him, hey, I'm a gay dad here, and I want you to treat me like a gay dad. Well, if you just don't say anything and just pretend like you're a dad and not put that adjective up there, they're going to treat you like a dad, and they're going to treat you with respect, and they're not going to care if you're gay or not.
Right.
I mean, don't you find that experience
Absolutely.
with you? Is that?
Yeah. I've had that experience. Absolutely, yes. And, every time that I remove any adjective, any label whatsoever, it becomes a shared human experience.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. I mean, and also, there are even times when guys turn that around and make it even fun to where they break the ice. Is that one time an attorney, guy says, well, I'm an attorney. And all of a sudden the lawyer jokes started coming out. But that was part of what I really enjoyed about the open discussion groups, is that it's informal. If you really look, and this is the other criticism I have, the National Father Initiative and other fatherhood organizations, it's structured. It's like a lecturing based group. It's like an academic thing. I'm going like, we don't do this with the moms. And I'm thinking to myself, the best resource you got is the guys that are there right there. Why do you need to bring and once in a while you can bring like an expert in just to talk and get things going. But other than that, the open discussion groups have been more powerful. In fact, I'm the one that introduced it to the National Adam Dad Network, I think in its 4th or 5th year. and they embraced it and included it, and it was a combination academic and open discussion group. And like 4 years ago, they got rid of it. And I'm going like, what's going on here? Because, it's so abnormal. We got to go back to the traditional thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've seen some of the most powerful things happen. Like you said, the humanity part of it comes into it. And it automatically breaks all those barriers where the compassion starts to coming out. And then the guys feel more comfortable about supporting each other. And the other amazing thing is that when a dad brings up an issue, they really discuss about it. They discuss the pain about it, how they're struggling with it. Yeah. And here's where I'm gonna kind of let the moms understand this. For those moms that are watching it, okay, as much as you hate when you express a problem or issue to your husband and he wants to problem solve it, we are good problem solvers. And when it comes to parenting, let us do that. Because I've seen this happen in groups. A guy will bring up an issue and they'll talk about it. But as guys, our problem solving guys will kick in. And one dad will go like, hey, I had that same issue. Can I share with you what I tried? And all of a sudden the guys embrace it. And the guy says, oh, I tried this. And one dad goes, you know what? I never tried that. I think I'm going to try that when I get home. You see the camaraderie that happens here and the networking of how to be better parents, and not even better parents, but better human beings just because of the experience. And we're not doing enough of that. We're telling guys, come to this convention. We have a step program we'd like to introduce to you. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5.
Yeah, the 12 steps of dads, right?
Oh, come on,
So one of the big brands that you have for your books is Dad's Behaving Dadly.
Yeah.
So what does dadly mean? Do you have a general definition of behaving dadly? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's just being proactive. That's it. The word, what happened was, here's how it came out is, when I was an at-home dad, I got a lot of media attention. And there was also this, movement of father absence. And I'd like to address that later too, if you have time. The father absence movement was coming on, and there was this whole thing about deadbeat dads and, dads are behaving badly. And so I said, dad's behaving. And then the Register did it, Orange County Register newspaper did an article on me, and the title was Dad's Behaving Dadly. So I'm not going to take full credit for it, and it kind of rung with me, and a funny story about, and so so what happened was, at the Chicken Soul for the Soup book had been out. And again, the reason I did that was I was trying to break down the stigma of dads that dads wouldn't share. And thank God for the internet. I just put out an invitation and told dads what I was doing, and all of a sudden stories started coming in. So Dad's Behaving Dadly became a collection of stories like the Chicken Soup for the Soul. And the most amazing thing about that is that I got incredible stories that are being published now by the Good Men Project, by the way. Thanks for doing that, Andy. But dads of every family dynamics were coming in. And dadly is just a term that I coined just to make guys feel comfortable about being compassionate and nurturing without feeling like you lost any of your masculinity, right? But then I had a what they call it an experience with the word with the Dad's Behaving Dadly title. What is that? What is it called? A Freudian slip. Right? I emailed someone about Dad's Behaving Dadly, and the woman posted an announcement about, oh yeah, there's this new book calling out Dad's Behaving Badly. Yeah, I go like, you can't read, but it just shows you how brainwashed we are as a society.
Yeah, right.
Is that you see that thinking that we've gotten this whole notion that most of the dads in this world are absent dads when it's just the opposite. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to get guys say, feel comfortable, feel proud about wearing that dad badge, and stop having people emasculating and beat down on you. Whenever someone says, like if someone says to you, you're babysitting today, stand up for yourself. If you don't stand up for yourself, you're giving part of your masculinity away.
Right. Yeah, Lori shared something in the chat. Lori, my wife is here watching. So one of her brothers is a stay-at-home dad. And his one of his kids' schools asked him to come in and be house mom in class for the day.
Oh my goodness! See, it's still happening today.
Yeah, but he said, no, when you call it house parent or house dad, then I'll show up. And they were like shocked. They did. And I'm like, really? No one has said that to them yet? I was shocked that it happened.
No, but it's true. That's the whole point I'm talking about earlier. Like, if you want a father-friendly environment, learn how to be a friendly father. Now, don't go up there, damn it, why didn't you change the name or something? And go, ladies, can I just talk to you? Can I just share with you that, I understand your good intentions, the house mom, but, I'm a dad. I'm not a replacement for mom. And I really would appreciate if you just call me the room parent or whatever. And also, I have another idea. I just want to share this with you. You know how women tell the guy, you want guys to share their feelings? Most of the times guys share the feelings, we get shut down or what we say is not credible. But also part of that is the delivery guys have. So, the guy could say, well, I've been talking to some other dads here too. And, I think I could encourage them to come here if we could just change the name. And then you'd have more dads coming here helping out. Isn't that what you want?
Right.
But we have too many guys. Yeah, but we have too many guys coming there, pounding on the desk and saying, this is not fair, blah, 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 instead of, using that moment to educate, because the honest reality is moms don't know what to do. Can I share this quick story?
Sure.
I know. So when I was a primary caregiver, at the time I thought, okay, well, I'm the at-home dad. I kind of went the extra 9 yards. I'm getting all this media stuff about, deadbeat dads and dads got to do more, et cetera, et cetera. So I was under the impression that when I went to the playground that it was the mom's responsibility to make me feel comfortable. So I went there, I had 2 kids in tow, and I'm the only dad there. I'm feeling comfortable. They're feeling uncomfortable. I'm upset because they're not making me feel comfortable. They'd either walk away. When the kids came near me, they'd pull them away, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm walking back home, and I'm trying to figure all this out. And then I saw a group of moms with their strollers coming my way. And they came my way, and I was intimidated. And I turned around and went back to the car. And I walked back with a dog with a tail between its legs. And this is the part about emasculating. I mean, I'm doing it to myself now. And I said to myself, why did I do that? I should have just walked over there, said hi to them, maybe joined them. So I just came up with this idea. And then someone pointed out to me, says, Hogan, people are intimidated by you. And I go like, what do you mean they're intimidated by me? I'm a fun guy, No, Hogan, you don't realize you don't have that Magic Johnson smile. You look different because you're Asian and you're tall. You're not supposed to be tall. You're supposed to be short. You have a very intimidating posture. And she goes, Dan, you're right. I got to learn to smile more. And so I said to myself, you know what? When I go to the playground, I got to make sure that I'm on the ground or sitting, not standing. I'm going to bring extra toys. I'm going to smile more. And it was unbelievable. It was my responsibility to make those women feel comfortable, because here's why. Moms have been brainwashed. Don't trust men. They've never had a guy show up at a playground before at 10 o'clock in the morning. So what registers in their brain is, I don't know what to do. I think I'll leave. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I just won't say anything. And so the dad is interpreting like, well, the reason they're not talking to me because they hate me. No, they don't know how to do this. So why don't you teach them how to do this? So all of a sudden, kids would come over and play with toys. What I did is I established a sense of trust. The women started coming over to me, talking to me. And like I said before, they would start inviting me to play groups. They were inviting me to coffee. They felt comfortable with me. And so it's just so important for more guys to do that.
Cool. So I promised to ask you this question because we talked about it before we started the show. But so what's your best piece of advice for new dads?
Okay. Well, first of all, set your ego aside. But the most important advice I have is that every dad goes through the same issues. Okay. Fatherhood, parenting issues, they don't discriminate. They're always going to be there. But if you concentrate too much on the challenges, you're not going to have fun being a dad. So have fun being a dad. And moms, if you're hearing this, it's okay for you to have fun to be a mom too. And don't get jealous if dad's having fun, because that's what he's supposed to do. When he makes it fun, the kids have a fun environment. They have a fun learning environment. The tension goes down. What might be a big issue of a kid spilling a drink becomes a little thing instead of a big thing.
Cool.
Yeah, like I used to, for example, what I mean by fun is when I was feeding my kids in the feeding seat, okay, and if I'm feeding them dinner or lunch or breakfast, I pretend like I'm the waiter, and I just have fun with the kids, and especially when they get older, I put like a credit card. Oh, you paying with a bill? And the reason I did was to stop the monotony, and this whole message of how daunting parenting is. And I'm at home and I'm having fun. I'm going like, why are everybody talking about terrible twos and terrible threes? I'm going like, terrific twos, terrific threes. I'm having a blast, because I'm making it fun.
Right.
Or like in the garage, let kids, like my kid just made his own drum set. I didn't care about the mess in the garage. He's pulling stuff out, stuff's falling. Am I going to go there and tell the kids, do it this way and worry about what other people are thinking because my garage is a mess? No. They can worry all they want about their garage. I'm having fun.
So entertain yourself to not have the monotonous day, and you entertain your kids, and it all feeds on itself, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not to say ignore the issues. Attend to them, but don't let them ruin your fatherhood journey or motherhood journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I see so many parents do, is that they're so judgment about how, like, moms will be judgmental about how dads do it, certain things, and other moms will be judgmental because another mom they're upset about because she said something, or there's this competitiveness. People are competing with their kids are competing, and they're competing about their kids learning the alphabet first before their kid and learning math. You see where I'm going with this? Is like, just watch your kid grow and develop, and watch them do it at their pace. Because isn't that if you were a kid, wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
And look, and I think about all the fun you're missing out on. Okay, even today, I actually started a diary. Okay, I started a journal. Women do diaries, but that's how I got into writing. I had so many parents tell me how horrible it was to be at home and being a parent. I'm going like, I'm having fun. Every day I would think about one positive thing my kid did or what I learned from my kid. And I wouldn't sit down every day and write maybe 2 days would go by. I'd block out time and write. And the journal in the beginning was like, the first week journal was maybe like 4 things, but then it grew like this, and it grew and grew. I was putting stuff down every day. And that's how I got my first book, because at the end of the day, I would look at that journal and say to myself, man, not only did I have a productive day, I had a fun day. And today I still have those journals. I did it for 8 years, and I wish I would have kept doing it, because I can look back at those books, and I can look and go like, you know what? It confirms that I did my job right, and it confirms that I enjoyed it and that I had fun with it. It's just look, my wonderful wife here, just as an example, like I took this journal, like a calendar, and you can see like all the writing there every day. And you don't have to tell the whole story. You can just like shorthand kind of stuff, and then fill in later.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, and you said you stopped?
Yeah, I stopped for whatever. Well, I think the reason I stopped is my oldest at the time, I think, was like 7 or 8, and I thought, well, there's not going to be any more endearing moments, and also, I was juggling 3 boys and then the special needs thing and all that stuff. So I don't know. I just stopped. Now I look back, wish I. And I've actually have other dads that are doing it now, so I kind of passed it on. So
I invite you to pick it up again and because you're having fun. So I invite you to start journaling and write how much fun you had on.
Thank you. No, but anyway, that's how I got into writing. I put all those stories in a book, and it was titled "The Man Who Would Be Dad," and actually by doing that book, that is what got me into what we talked about earlier, into the whole concept of the Dadly book, is having other dads share stories.
Yeah, that's cool. That's beautiful. So you've been in so many different groups and started things and left things. What's the best way for someone to track you down today and get to know you more, connect with you?
Oh, the best way probably is through the Dad Marketing website. And I'm sorry I don't have, but you could put Dad Marketing in Google, it'll take you right to the website. I have a wonderful dad partner. He's a marketing guru, and we're trying to talk to companies, and we've had talked to a few, but they're not pulling the trigger. Is that, dads represent half the parent population. They don't market to dads. That's a huge source of income. We estimated in the book that Babies R Us is losing $300,000 a day by not marketing dads. Because we want to buy stuff for our kids. We want to take our kids to the toy store. More dads are going to the grocery shop. Grocery shopping is, and also it's disrespectful to the moms, because that's the mom's partner, and you're leaving and ignoring them out. And if you really look at the advertisements, everything says moms. You look at moms like Disney moms. I'm trying to talk to Disney right now. Why can't you change it to Disney parents? We talk about gender equality. There's like one dad and like 8 women on the panel. I go like, come on, give me a break, And why don't you just call it a parents panel? There's just so much growth there's so much growth from this, where again, you're creating segregation by just leaving out the dads. And then on top of that, a gay dad, a stepdad, or at-home dad might feel uncomfortable because the whole identity behind Mom's Panel is that they're stay-at-home moms. You see what I mean by that? Is that, I guess the last thing I know for time is like, if, you can get home by Dad Marketing. And we also are trying to start a We Love Dads and We Love Moms campaign, or movement, actually. So if you type in We Love Dads, We Love Moms, and actually go on a Dad Marketing page, there are 2 pages there. And what we want to do is we want to nominate dads and moms and present awards and start spreading more love and passion to stop the segregation and discrimination and bring more unity to the parenting community. Anyway, I know I kind of went on to rant, but you can see how passionate I am about uniting all parents, because the kids, that's what they want. We're not giving it to them, And so I think, if I have to say anything right now, because you guys are giving me this platform to do this, is that can moms and dads just for a moment look at each other as parents first and moms and dads second? If we can do that, just think about how much more growth that we are as adults are going to have, and that we're going to leave a much more amazing parenting legacy for our kids.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
And wherever someone's listening to this, go to realmenfeel.org, and we'll have links to the vast array of things that are Hogan Hilling. So don't
I have to throw this out there really quick. So any company that's listening, this dad, this grandpa loves buying things for the kids and especially the grandkids. So don't leave me out, okay? Market to me like crazy.
Yeah, well, the other thing that about this whole marketing too is that we want to not only show companies that you're going to increase revenue, but the most important thing you're going to do, you're going to strengthen families, because now you're embracing dad as a full parent and equal parent.
Yeah.
We need to start. We as adults are the role models for our kids. We need to start practicing more love, more passion, more respect, and more value to each other. So again, guys, thanks for having me on the show. I hope this message gets out. I hope I get an opportunity to come back on again. And hopefully when I do, we can hopefully see a huge difference in the way moms and dads are working and collaborating with each other to create a better parenting environment for our kids.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
And thanks very much for being here, Hogan. And, not being a dad, I'm shocked how much I get out of this. So, yeah, even drop the nouns, not just drop the adjectives, drop the nouns.
Right. Well, anyway, so not to be biased, moms, you're doing a great job. You're all amazing. But to all the dads out there, keep on daddying.
Beautiful. So thanks everyone for joining us live. Thanks again, Hogan. Thank you, Appio. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Real Men Feel. Until next week, visit realmenfeel.org or the Real Men Feel Facebook group and share what you thought of this episode. Please give this podcast a review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you are discovering Real Men Feel. Reach out to us at realmenfeel@gmail.com. Show us some love by visiting realmenfeel.org/swag or digitaltipjar.com/realmenfeel. Learn more about Andy Grant at theandygrant.com and Appio Hunter at appiohunter.com.